Plot twists. We all love them. Whether it's Snape killed Dumbledore or no, I am your father. Everyone who likes fiction has a good place in their heart for a good plot twist. But if you're writing one, you really want that twist to be good because inevitably they're very hard to write and very possible to screw up. Though I mainly focus on gaining musical theater talents and only write for fun, I do know what I'm talking about because writing plot twists is one of the things I have always worked the hardest on. So here's my advice on how to write a good plot twist. Warning though, I will be spoiling these stories. Watch at your own risk. Step 1. Plan your plot, including your twist, from the beginning. Knowing where you're going with your story before you release the twist makes writing a lot easier. Odds are, if you release the first part of your story before you've decided on your twist, you're gonna have to go back and fix stuff. If you decide your twist after a certain part of the story has already been revealed, don't worry, you will find a way to make it work. You'll just have to go back and really work hard on it and make certain things hidden details all along in your first part and justify certain things that contradict it. Star Wars, for example. When A New Hope came out, it was not George Lucas's intention to have Darth Vader be Luke's father, with some versions of his script having Anakin Skywalker, who was a different character at this time, still alive, as the twist. But when he decided to write The Empire Strikes Back, he got a whole different idea for it. He then had one movie to switch things up enough to foreshadow his twist and then reveal it and still make it good. Then he had to spend time in The Return of the Jedi explaining why Obi-Wan Kenobi lied, because now he lied. So what I'm essentially saying is if this winds up happening in your story, it's super risky and really hard to do. So knowing what you want to do with your story for sure before you start writing is always a good idea. Step 2. Determine how your twist can be emotional and true to character. Your character isn't going to immediately go to, I'm not afraid to fight you, you were never my friend, I'm stronger than you think. No. Your twist is usually going to have some emotional reaction that it's going to cause your character to have. Not all twists, but most of them. Take Luke Skywalker, for example. When he found out that Darth Vader was his father, he didn't go, alrighty, thanks for telling me, Dad. He screamed at the top of his lungs and cried. I'm not saying your character needs to react like that. I'm saying they need to react how they normally would if something bad happened. They still need to remain themselves. In Sweeney Todd, when Sweeney finds out he just murdered his wife, his face goes blank and he just sits there out of shock with her body and sings a reprise of The Barber and His Wife. Or take Eleanor in The Good Place. When she found out that they were actually in the bad place at the end of season 1, she just started laughing and was like, oh man, oh wow. And all of these are good reactions, and they're all emotional reactions, and they're how the character would actually react. Your character is gonna remain the same person, even when they have a shocking thing happen to them. Make sure that your twist can push the character arc forward. And don't make your character react in a way that you normally wouldn't see them doing. Even though it is tempting to make them cry and scream when they really would never do that. Step 3. Use your medium's advantages when foreshadowing your plot twist. Books can do things in terms of foreshadowing that movies cannot. Movies can do things in terms of foreshadowing that plays cannot. Plays can do things in terms of foreshadowing that movies cannot, musicals can do things in terms of foreshadowing that normal plays cannot, and so on and so forth and vice versa, and you get what I'm saying. The way you foreshadow your twists is going to be different based on your medium. For example, in books, it's usual to know a character's thoughts, and the reader will just pass over it because that's not something unexpected. But if you hear a character's thoughts in a movie, you remember that because you're like, oh, that's something I need to be told. And then they're gonna pick up on your twist when they're not meant to yet. Here's an example of how movies and plays can use music as a foreshadowing device. In Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, which is a play and a movie, both are musicals, they have an excellent way of foreshadowing upcoming twists with music. Seriously, they do it all the time, so here's just one example. The character Joanna's chief situation is that she feels like she's a bird trapped in a cage because her adoptive father is isolating her. And to show this, in her song, Greenfinch and Linnetbird, they use a lot of flutes in the instrumentals, which are classically used to make bird noises. But you see, in Sweeney Todd, that's the only time they use flutes. Well, except for one scene. In the song Poor Thing, two other characters are discussing Joanna's mother, and there's a little flute trill at one point, and that little trill signifies Joanna's connection, even though the audience doesn't know yet that they're talking about Joanna's mother. This kind of foreshadowing isn't available in a book, but things are available in books that aren't available in movies or plays, so use your medium well. And don't try to use another medium's advantage, because it just won't work. And sometimes if you're adapting a story for book or for movie or for play that was an already existing story, then you might need to change up the way you foreshadow it, because certain types of foreshadowing will work in all, and certain types of foreshadowing will only work sometimes. Step 4. Plan and introduce foreshadowing. I'll just be straight with this. You absolutely must foreshadow your twist in order for it to be good. You might be thinking, but I want it to be a complete surprise, and it still will be. It just needs to be believable. For foreshadowing tricks, I'm recommending red herrings, misdirection, and using nothing too obvious to hint at your twist. Be careful and use these tricks as well as any other tricks you may have found when possible, but be careful. Be careful and use these tricks as well as any other tricks you might have found when possible, but be subtle enough so that nothing seems off. Step 5. Have your intended audience review your story, including your twist. If you want proof that your story's twist is going to have the impact that you want, then have someone from your intended audience review it. Don't tell them that there will be a twist up front, because then their reaction won't be genuine. They will be naturally looking out for the twist and jumping to conclusions, and one of the conclusions that they'll jump to will probably be the right answer. Because if the audience knows that a twist is coming, then they're gonna pick up on all of the little foreshadowing hints that they weren't meant to pick up on the first time. And also make sure that the people who are reviewing your story are the people who you want to be your intended audience. If you're writing a little kid show, have it be reviewed by little kids, because certain audiences are gonna take to certain twists differently. If you're writing a little kid show, the plot has to be simple enough for a 3-year-old to get it, so your foreshadowing will most likely be picked up on by adults, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. You can't have a well-written twist for an audience that's intended to be younger than, say, 9 or 10 years old, because they just won't get it. The mind of an older person is more mature than the mind of a little kid, so have your intended audience review your story before you release it, because it's your intended audience who you want to have the shock. And if they say, "I saw it coming," then you've still got time to fix it. Helpful hints. A. Reveal it at the right moment. I've seen twists that are revealed at a low moment and not the climax, when they could have been revealed at the climax, and this is just annoying. If you wait until the climax or the scene with the most weight possible, then the audience is going to have a much bigger reaction. For example, once again, take the end of The Good Place Season 1. When Eleanor realizes that they were in the bad place all along, she does that when all of her friends are fighting, and whatever decision they make is gonna be crucial. We thought that that situation was as intense as it could possibly be, and then figuring out that what's happening isn't what's happening makes the twist 1,000 times better. Think about it. They could easily have written in a scene in, say, episode 5, where they revealed to us what Michael was up to and what was really going on, and let us watch everything happen until the main characters figured it out, but would that really have been as good? However, I will admit, sometimes it is a good idea to reveal your twist at a lower moment so that certain scenes can occur later in your story. Think about it. In Into the Spider-Verse, Miles finds out that his Uncle Aaron is working for the evil forces quick enough so that he can have that little scene later where he says, "He's my uncle! He's my uncle!" to his friends to stop them from trying to hurt him. However, the scene when all of Miles' friends are comforting him after his Uncle Aaron died to save him when he realized that Miles was Spider-Man is much more touching. B. Don't think foreshadowing is a bad idea. You might be really worried that if you foreshadow your twist, people are just gonna find out and your twist isn't gonna be good. But not foreshadowing your twist is what's a bad idea. If you don't foreshadow your twist, then audiences won't believe it and will feel tricked and won't be satisfied. If you don't foreshadow your twist, then it won't be believable, audiences won't get it, and they will not be satisfied. If you don't foreshadow your twist, then it won't be believable and the audience won't like it because they'll just feel tricked. B. Use misdirection. This is when you foreshadow a plot twist, but make the audience believe that it means something other than it does. Let us once again go back to the play and movie Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Sorry, I know you guys can tell I'm a bit obsessed. When Sweeney finds out that his wife Lucy poisoned herself 15 years ago when he was framed and sent away to prison, we, the audience, do the exact same thing that he does. We don't question what that means, because when we hear that she poisoned herself, we think that that means that that poison killed her. She's dead. At the end of the story, we find out that not only was Lucy alive, but she was a character in the story all along. The insane beggar woman on the streets that no one would listen to and just rambled on about nonsense. But the reveal doesn't happen until Sweeney has killed her and gets a look at her face. For those of you confused by this, this story takes place in the 1840s, so she had, a lot of dirt on her because she'd been, living on the streets, and she had a big hat that covered her face, so it makes sense that he couldn't tell it was her. Anyway, this twist works because we dismiss everything that she said as insanity and don't notice what she was really saying or implying. Whenever she sees Sweeney, she goes, "Hey, don't I know you, mister?" And we're just like, yeah, she's crazy. He's been in prison for 15 years in Australia, and they live in London. But what we miss is that she totally recognizes him. She's married to him. Potential pitfalls. Don't over foreshadow. Don't imply that there is a twist coming. It's tempting. Oh, but this I cannot stress enough. I mean, I literally cannot stress this one enough. This one is, big. This is an extreme type of twist that takes an extremely talented writer to be able to pull off. I have seen one writer pull this off. One. And that writer was Rick Riordan, and he is super, super good. But I don't want to discourage you if this is the kind of twist you want to do. So what I'm going to say is that this is extremely hard work, and be prepared to have to rewrite many times and definitely have a test audience. I have never tried a twist like this. Know that it's going to be a lot of hard work. Be prepared to rewrite it many times if you need to, and definitely have your audience test it out a lot. Test the story out a lot. The risk here is that you're just gonna over foreshadow and everyone's gonna figure it out. I mean, you don't want the reaction of your twist to be, "Who knew?" or "Called it." As I've said, I've seen this kind of twist be pulled off once, though I'm sure it's happened more times. And another thing I want to caution is that no matter what kind of twist you write, somebody out there is gonna figure it out no matter how good it's written, because people are just smart. I know, humans can be dumb sometimes, but other times they can be smart. Someone out there is gonna figure it out, but that might just be because they're actually really good at being able to pin this kind of thing down and know when it's coming in ways that most people can't. And what you're skilled at actually helps you figure out when a twist is coming too. I write and I act, and because of that, I see a lot of twists coming in things, and that does make me sad a lot because I like when twists are coming, so when I get a good twist, it's always a good surprise. Sometimes I'm just an idiot, but For example, when watching Knives Out with my sister the first time, she whispered to me, "I think someone switched the labels," and that is exactly what happened. But in the end, I think the twists you had no idea were even a possibility are better. The best twists I've seen foreshadow just enough so that it seems nothing is off on your first time through, but looking back, everything just seems plainly obvious. Take Wicked, my favorite Broadway musical, for an example. Now, it's hard to hint at a twist like Wicked's because Fiyero himself didn't know that he was going to turn into a scarecrow. So of course, we didn't know that he would become the scarecrow. But what makes Wicked really great is that it still foreshadows at this twist despite none of the characters knowing. One thing that Fiyero does know about himself is that he's not academically smart, but he always uses the same word to describe himself. You guessed it, brainless. Everything makes you say, of course this happened on the second time through. Of course people would try and harm Fiyero when he wouldn't tell them where the Wicked Witch of the West was. Of course Elphaba would use a spell to save him. And of course Fiyero would use his brainlessness as a lie to find his way back to her. Don't make the twist bigger than the story will allow. Sure, we've seen great stories with huge twists. But the key is that it can't take the viewability or readability away from the story on the second time through. Don't make all the time spent before the twist a complete waste so that it's completely unrewatchable or unrereadable. Each plot twist is different and they can be awesome when done right. Have fun and work hard and it will pay off. Sometimes you might feel like it's impossible, but it's not. You'll figure it out. If you're struggling, take a break. One time, I didn't realize why my twist wasn't working in my Marvel fanfiction until I was laying in bed one night, and a thing that I could do to change the twist to make it so much better. Have fun and be proud of yourself. This is really hard. Stories and their twists are amazing, and no matter what medium it is, your story is gonna be awesome.